Great. My name is Walter Carl. I'm the founder and chief research officer at ChatThreads, and we're a marketing analytics company based in Boston. And at this conference, we presented about the impact of social media on purchase behavior. In the past, there's been conflicting studies about whether or not social media actually has an impact on purchase behavior. Some studies say that it does, some studies say it doesn't. One of the ways that, for studies that say, yes, it does have an impact, they'll say something like Facebook fans will spend more, for example, than people who are non-Facebook fans. And that's taken as evidence that social media has an impact. But we find that there's a fundamental flaw with that approach, which people who are already inclined to be a fan or a follower of a brand are probably going to also be more likely to spend more. So there's that kind of self-selection bias. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to use an innovative methodology that captured data in real time about how consumers actually experience brands, whether that's social media, whether an offline conversation, whether it's traditional TV ad and traditional billboards, and look at if there's a shift in their increase for purchase behavior or consumption frequency based on their encounters or their exposures with these brands. So we used platform that my company ChatThreads developed called Brand Encounter, and we had 400 participants for a period of 7 days tell us every time they encountered one of 5 different brands. And we picked the quick service restaurant category because that was a category where there's high social media presence and also something, consumption frequency with short sales cycle. So you're going to someplace for lunch, a couple of days later you might go someplace for dinner, et cetera. So we could see what the impact was. So they reported over 5,600 touch points. And these were, again, things like, I saw a TV ad for Wendy's, I saw a billboard ad for Taco Bell, somebody on their Facebook update said they had a great experience when they were eating at McDonald's, et cetera. And what we found was that social media does indeed help us to explain or to predict whether or not a consumer would increase in their amount that they spent or the frequency with which they would visit a QSR restaurant, or the likelihood that they would increase their spend. So social media did that, but what was more interesting, I think the key takeaway of the study, was that it was the combination effect of social media and traditional media, like out of home in particular, and social media and TV ads that showed the more consistent effect. And what we saw is double the increase in likelihood that someone was going to either spend more money or visit a QSR restaurant more frequently if they came into contact with both a social media encounter and out of home, or a social media encounter and TV. When we did see lifts in the amount spent, we saw a 17% lift for that combination effect for certain brands.
So you did this with Ogilvy, right?
That's right. This was a study that we did with Ogilvy.
And so they're obviously working with brands, so what are they going to go back and say to brands about the implications of this study for what they should be doing strategically going forward?
One of the things that we noticed was that the amount invested in social media relative to the impact is very low. So it's very much underutilized as a resource. And so I think what they can do, go back to their clients with, is say, look, social media on its own, yes, can have an impact, and we saw that. But the more consistent impact was taking social media and using it in concert with the other marketing and media initiatives that you're already doing. And so we know that there's a more consistent, reliable impact, and it's a consequential impact there. So I think that's the key message, the key takeaway from this study, is that we know that there's an impact when you combine social media with the traditional media, like TV and out of home in particular, at least for this category. And now I think the challenge is how best do you work those in combination with one another? How do you use them? So what we did is we did an ongoing tracking study using our platform. And what that does, it's a full 360 view of any time, any way that a consumer encounters a brand. So using their mobile phone, if they see a TV ad, they'll tell us, I saw a TV ad for McDonald's, and I felt very positive about it. And they can attach a picture, they can attach a note, so we get a sense of what they actually experienced. And so it's all of those brand encounters all laid next to each other. And then in the analysis, so that includes offline conversations, that includes a conversation that might take place on Facebook or a Twitter feed, et cetera, but right alongside a TV ad or a billboard ad. So then what we do in the analysis is we look at each of those individual touch points to see if they can explain whether or not a consumer is going to increase their spend or increase their consumption frequency. And then we look at also all the interaction effects. So TV plus out of home or TV plus PR, et cetera. When we're looking at conversations, whether they take place offline or online, and more than one brand is mentioned. So they say, yeah, I had a great experience at Wendy's, and I'm really glad I went there because last week my experience at McDonald's was terrible, or something like that. Swap those brands any way you want to. Yes, we can pick them up, and the way that we pick those up is each time there's a mention or an encounter with the brand, those would be two separate touch points. So there's a positive encounter about Wendy's, a negative encounter in this case about McDonald's. So we're capturing both of those. One of the things that's really interesting is when we do the analysis is we're not only able to pick up whether it was the reference to a brand, to the brand itself that was increasing, but also the reference to a competitor's brands. Okay? So sometimes you'll see a lift for a reference to your own brand and then the client's own brand, but then a decrease because there was a reference to the competitor's brand. Or sometimes we even see, and there's some really interesting things about maybe there's reference to a competitor brand that leads to a lift in your own brand as well. Yeah, because it often shows that there's an interest in the category, and so that can just, that additional reference there can lead to increased behavior, to go out and search, for example, for that brand, to figure out why.
Yeah,